Oh, there we go. I don't know if that was me or him. So we're going to study the book of Ruth over the next several weeks, and really the book of Ruth is a love story. It's a love story, and it's about love and learning to love and one another. I believe the opposite sex. There's a little dating in there. There's everything. But ultimately, it's about loving God and knowing God. And we need to continue to grow in our love. One thing that I believe that stands out about what I think at the Charleston Church of Christ is that there's a lot of love here. And as Dan said, and I can testify about Dan's life, we're not perfect, we're a mess. We all are. We need help, we need to grow. We come from varied and sundry backgrounds that you may or may not want to know about, but we do our best to love each other. And when we hurt each other or we're not on track, we try to work through and try to follow those biblical principles. I believe the book of Ruth is going to help us even more in a great way. Okay, let's give it one more shot here. And yes. You all know Ruth in the book has a baby. Wasn't funny, Steve. Steve's like, that's stupid. It's humor. It is stupid, I know. Just a little levity because it's a rather serious book. There's a lot of heavy things, and she does have a baby, but that's not it. I understand that floating in the pool. But the baby did grow up to be. Keeps going down. We're going to step back in time, though, about 3,100 years, somewhere around 1100 BC, and it's a different time, it's a different culture, different people, different setting. But what we'll see as we study the book of Ruth is that we can relate to people for all time, and they can relate to us. We can relate to what they went through. We can learn from them. People are the same no matter how much time has gone by. And the idea of love and our need for love, our need to give love, and what love is really all about hasn't changed. And hopefully we'll learn some things. First point is the crucible of love. Before we dive in here, talk about the crucible of love. True love, lasting love, is born in the crucible of suffering. You go, what? Why? Well, love by its very essence, by its very being, is the absence of self, the absence of ego, being able to put somebody else above yourself. And for the most part, one of the greatest ways to destroy self and ego is through suffering. It's through struggle. It's through challenge. I know that what can happen is, and happens to us at various times, in various ways, we can turn bitter. We can just get more cynical, more angry, and less loving as we go through trials of suffering. Or we can try to seek comfort somewhere else. Or we can grow in our potential to love. This, I believe the book of Ruth is a great love story. Let's begin reading together in Ruth chapter 1, verse 1. In the days when the judges ruled, there was a famine in the land. So a man from Bethlehem of Judah, together with his wife and 2 sons, went to live for a while in the country of Moab. This man's name was Elimelech. His wife's name was Naomi, and the names of his 2 sons were Mahlon and Chilion. They were Ephrathites from Bethlehem, Judah, and they went to Moab and lived there. Now Elimelech, Naomi's husband, died. She was left with her 2 sons. They married Moabite women, one named Orpah and the other Ruth. And they had lived there, after they had lived there about 10 years, both Mahlon and Chilion also died. And Naomi was left without her 2 sons and her husband. When Naomi heard in Moab that the Lord had come to the aid of his people by providing food for them, she and her daughters-in-law prepared to return home from there. With her 2 daughters-in-law, she left the place where she had been living and set out on the road that would take them back to the land of Judah. Then Naomi said to her 2 daughters-in-law, "Go back, each of you, to your mother's home. May the Lord show you kindness as you have shown kindness to your dead husbands and to me. May the Lord grant that each of you will find rest in the home of another husband." Then she kissed them goodbye, and they wept aloud and said to her, "We will go back with you to your people." But Naomi said, "Return home, my daughters. Why would you come with me? Am I going to have any more sons? Who could become your husbands? Return home, my daughters. I am too old to have another husband. Even if I thought there was still hope for me, Even if I had a husband tonight and then gave birth to sons, would you wait until they grew up? Would you remain unmarried for them? No, my daughters, it is more bitter for me than for you, because the Lord's hand is turned against me. At this they wept aloud. Then Orpah kissed her mother-in-law goodbye, but Ruth clung to her. The crucible of love is suffering. Before we dive in here, though, and this is the hard part, and it's warm, you gotta, I want everyone, instead of, a lot of times in churches you greet your neighbor, because it's warm and we get a little tired, we're going to slap our neighbors. This is how lawsuits happen in churches. The minister said. We need a little bit of background. Some of you are actually, some of the teens are probably over there smashing each other. Really, to understand this just a little bit, it says this is during the time of the judges. So somewhere between 1400, probably closer to 1100 BC when this is happening. The time of the judges is, there was no central authority in Israel. There was no king. God would raise up a judge when Israel would leave him, and the judge would rule for a while, try to draw the people back. He wouldn't be a king or anything. He would just be there and fight the battles. Then he would fade and be gone. And the Bible says in Judges 21:25, the last verse says, in those days Israel had no king. Everyone did as they saw fit. There was a little bit of chaos. There was no ruler. There was no real law. It was a crazy, challenging time. And you can read the book of Judges right before Ruth of what it was like and what the standard was changing. And people were doing whatever they wanted. Strange, crazy, outrageous things happened. Yet in the midst of this, God wanted us to see this account of Ruth. And as we go through it over the next several weeks, we'll see why. We'll understand what God wants us to learn, how important she is, and Naomi is, to us, to our faith, believe it or not. There was a famine, it says, those days when the judges rules, there was a famine in the land. For there to be a famine in the land, in Deuteronomy, God promised the Israelites, listen, as long as you serve me and follow me and obey my laws, you will always have plenty to eat. And then in Deuteronomy 28, he says, but when you leave me and depart from me, the curse will come upon the land and there will be famine. I think I had a couple little slides. The crucible, sorry. This is actually the land of Benjamin during that time. And it says that what happens is this man, Elimelech, decides that, okay, there's no bread there, there's nothing there, so he decides to leave. And you see where Jerusalem is? He would have taken that road down to the Jordan Valley, crossed the Jordan River, and then taken the long trip south to Moab, away from the people of God, away from Israel, into Moab. Moab, just so you know, also, Moab was a weird, distant cousin of Israel. Some of you have weird, distant cousins, or you may be the weird, distant cousin, Nobody knows it sitting beside you, but they were weird, distant cousins. What happened was Abraham's nephew, Lot, through an incestual relationship with one of his daughters, had a child, and that's where the Moabite people came from. So they were related, kind of, in a strange way. So Elimelech goes, he takes his family, his wife, his sons, and they leave and they go to try to find bread, to find help, and they hear there's some help, there's bread there in Moab, and they leave. Now, names meant a lot to the people of the East. They meant a lot. What you name your child, what you give a name of a place means a lot. Bethlehem. They were from Bethlehem. Ironically, Beth is always house, and Lehem is bread. Ironically, it's the house of bread is where they're from. And there's a famine. The people have departed from God. Elimelech's name, El is always God, is Yahweh. His name means God is king. Naomi's name means pleasant. We'll see how that ties more and more into God's account here. His son's name's Malin, is weak. Kilion means frail. Actually, I had a friend growing up in high school named Malin. I never told him this. Your name means weak. I didn't know that. Moab, it's actually two words. Ab is father. Abba in Hebrew and in Greek. And Mo is who. So it's who's your father. Or literally, you got it. Who's your daddy? That's what Moab meant. Who's your daddy? I'm not making this up. Yes. I didn't have a slide for that. So it says what happens is they go, they leave, they're trying to escape the famine. Has God left them? No, but he's kind of turned against the people. They decide we've got to go find something. Should have they left? I don't know. We don't really know from the story. But we do know this. Verse 3, it says, now Elimelech, God is king, Pleasant's husband, died. She was left with her 2 sons. They go and they marry women from that land. It shows that things were, out of whack. Things were crazy. They were only supposed to marry within the people of God. Now they marry Moabite women. One's Oprah. No, that's Orpah. I made that mistake. I'm like, that's Oprah. Orpah, the other's named Ruth. They live there together for about 10 years. They have a little family. Naomi's 2 sons, Mahlon and Chilion, married to Ruth and Orpah. And then it says, then her 2 sons die. Her 2 sons pass away. Her young, the ones that connected her last family in this land. I don't think we can fully understand the depth of her suffering, what she was going through, what life was really like. We don't know why. Sometimes it's hard just, not to know, to not know why. And the Bible doesn't tell us, so we don't understand. Naomi doesn't really understand as you read on. Why? What's happening? Why is this happening? Why am I suffering? Why did I lose my husband? God was his king. Now my sons are gone. In the Near East, daughters left home. They would be married off at a young age, usually teens, middle teens to late teens. They were married. They left home. Husbands sometimes were older and they'd pass away, but sons remained forever. A leading consulting firm in America posed this question to American men. They said, if you're in a sinking boat and you could rescue one person, your daughter, your wife, or your mother, which one would you rescue? And 40% said their wife, 60% said their daughter, 60 and 40, guess how many said their mom? Sorry, I didn't share this on Mother's Day. No one said they'd rescue their mom. I'm sorry, Lee. I'm sure your son's. They posed the consulting firm posed the same question to Saudi men, Saudi Arabia. Their answer was 100% said mom. 100%. Just totally different culture, totally different mindsets. That's how it is in the Near East today. That's how it was back then. She lost her sons. She didn't just lose her sons. She had this, maybe just a dream about her husband and her, and then having her sons, and they got married, maybe a grandchild, just this dream, and it was shattered. It was gone. Her life was gone in a flash. She's left alone. To be a widow in that day meant you were completely vulnerable, suffering. You didn't have Social Security. You had no one to take care of you. She had no other family. She was left all alone in the midst of unbearable suffering. But she did what anybody in that kind of suffering has to do. The sun comes up, you put one foot in front of the other, you get up, and you start living life. You go, I got to keep living life. I'm going to hang on. I got to, maybe with a limp, she moved forward. Even though for her, maybe death would have been welcomed. Not necessarily killing herself, but in the sense of for her, everything was gone. Everything that she believed in and wanted. But somehow in the midst of pain and suffering, there has to be a little bit of hope, right? It might be a faint glimmer of hope, but somehow she had a little bit of hope, and she got up and she moved forward. It says in verse 6, she does hear about a little bit of hope when Naomi heard in Moab that the Lord had come to the aid of his people. Not to her aid, but she heard, hey, God is coming back to the aid of his people. He's providing food for his people. She decides, we need to go back. It's time to go back. God is calling us back. And, you think about it. Naomi and her situation. When she knew God was in control. as you read through this, you understand, she says, God is, we'll read about it in a moment, God did this, God allowed this to happen. She understood that. And it's easy when God does not meet our expectations. It's easy to grow cynical. It's also, we can even fall into bitterness, an underlying bitterness. And we don't say that, we don't think that, we don't live our life that way. It only comes out at certain times, certain situations, certain people where we feel it come to the surface and we've given into bitterness. When God doesn't seem to come through, when things don't work out the way we dreamed they would, like Naomi dreamed they would. And we go from being pleasant to being bitter. You know, what happens sometimes is we create this thin faith. It's a veil. I have faith, I believe in God, I trust in God, and you know, we have posters and we have bumper believe and I trust, and yet when disappointment comes, our faith is gone. It just drops, it falls. It's not it's not a fully I trust God, I've given it over. That's how we know we feel the disappointment. Are you with me? Yeah. I've been there. I've been there where I've just allowed my faith to be shattered, and I'm building up my faith. I believe, but then something little happens and it's gone. Yeah. It's not a true faith. Naomi is getting up, is moving forward, and we'll find out in the midst of this, she still has faith in God. Yes, she's not happy, she's upset. You know, she even blames God later on. We read that. God has turned his hand. She doesn't know that, but she says, God has turned his hand against me. And sometimes when we hear that, we're like, if I was there, I'd let Naomi know, you need to have faith and trust in God. Let me show you a few passages, you know what I mean? And we want to theologize someone to death. Let me give you the theology on this. But sometimes we don't need that, right? We're suffering. We don't know why. We don't know what it is. Why aren't things going the way I expect them to? Why isn't God coming through? And theology isn't always the answer. You know, also in bitterness, as I said, it's easy at that time to seek comfort, to seek release somewhere else. You know, for men, too often at our age, it's pornography. For women, it's a romance novel or, you know, soap operas. Whatever it may be, it's I'm seeking comfort, I'm seeking release, I'm trying to make life happen how I think it should happen. God isn't coming through, so I need to make it happen, right? Find that's not Naomi's heart. That's not Naomi's life. And we see here that Naomi, she's heading up the Jordan Valley, this little band, nearing the Dead Sea with her daughters in tow. And the second point is, first one is the crucible of love. The second is the crucifixion of self. Crucifixion of self. As they're making their way up there, they hear about bread, they're going back. It says with her daughters, 2 daughters-in-law, she left the place where she had been living, set out on the road, going back to the land of Judah. Suddenly it dawns on her, in verse 8, it says, and Naomi said to her 2 daughters-in-law, she realizes what's happening, she realizes, well, I'm taking my daughters-in-law away from everything they know, everything they have. No Jewish man is going to marry them. They're going to go back and they're not going to have a life. We'll never remarry. We'll never have children. They're going to end up, and she shares that like me. And this little band makes her way, and the full weight hits her of her daughter-in-law's decisions, and she just stops. They're leaving everything they've ever known. You know, the first or last words recorded of a biblical character says a lot about who they are. Says a lot about their character and their life. And we read here down in verse 8, then Naomi said to her 2 daughters-in-law, go back, each of you to your mother's home. May the Lord show you kindness, as you have shown kindness to your dead husbands and to me. May the Lord grant that each of you will find rest in the home of another husband. You know, in the midst of severe suffering, pain, something that I can't even grasp. I've been through some trials, some hard times, but I can't even imagine going through this and still moving forward, still going. In the midst of this, Naomi realizes, you know, I've got to destroy the only family I have. Out of love, she's got to destroy it, right? And she looks at these daughters and she says, she doesn't encourage them, this would be a good idea, but I hope you stay. She says, go back. Twice she says, return. She orders them Just go back, return. Go back to your family, to your people. She's thinking about them. And what she says, she uses this word that's pretty powerful. She says halfway through verse 8, may the Lord show you kindness, as you have shown kindness to your dead and to me. The word kindness actually is the word hasid. Hasid. Chesed is how it's said. It's one of the most powerful words in the Hebrew language. And this word combines different ideas and thoughts that it's hard to translate. It's translated as kindness. That's not a real full translation. It's translated as unfailing love. It's also translated as steadfast love. And the idea is it's love and loyalty together. It's sacrifice and commitment together. And she brings up this thought. She goes, you have already shown hasid to me and to your dead. You have been loyal. You have been faithful. You have stood by me. You have sacrificed. You have committed. And you've shown that to me. Now go and leave. Go so you can have a life. You know, hasid is something that's hard for us to understand and grasp in our day and age. When you love with hasid love, you bind yourself to the object of your love, no matter the response. I got to be honest, as I study this out, and I told my wife this, I like to study things that have 4 practicals and the points rhyme. I really do, you know. Have no fear, the Lord is near, you know. Things will go well or you'll go to hell, I don't know. But I like what's practical, it's easy. But this whole concept, as you read through the book of Ruth and we study it, we dig it out, it's not easy. It's not easy. Hasid. I want to have a response. I want to have, when I love someone, you know what I mean? I expect something back. I expect them to treat me a certain way. But hasid love is a decision of your will, of your mind. It's a commitment to love when you feel like it and when you don't. You still love. You know, I was thinking about this, and me and my wife have been married 28 years. I love my wife dearly, deeply. But we had a bump the other day. Yes. That's code for an argument. And it wasn't much of an argument, but she was mad at me, and I can't imagine why, but must have lost her mind momentarily, but she was mad at me, and she was upset, she was expressing it, and she's let me know that I should be thankful I'm married to a Maltese, because Maltese are they're Mediterranean. We were joking afterwards, we're like, I guess if I married a Norwegian, it would have been like, listen, would have laid it out there. But you know, she was sharing what she's feeling, thinking, and she was upset with me, and man, I was like, whoa, you know, this is a lot, and I wanted to shut down. I pulled back emotionally for a little while, like, you know, and you know, I'm not going to talk. It's the old, you know what I mean? Push it with me. Whether you're married or not, it doesn't matter. You're like, you hurt my feelings a bit, you know, they got my feelings there, they're hurt, I wear them out there, and I just pulled back. And of course, at the same time, I was studying this out. You know? I'm not kidding. I am not kidding. I'm sitting there like, and here I am, and hasid love is about, it doesn't matter. You don't pull back emotionally. You don't withdraw. You don't go, you hurt my feelings, I'm done. Hey, I have a reason, I have a right to act this way. That's not God's love. That's not hasid love. That's not committed love. That's up and down, moodiness. That's our age, our culture. I want a response. I went back and apologized. My wife's like, well, I'm sorry. I mean, we worked it out really quickly, just so you know. And we love each other as much as we did then. But our age, our society, our time really has lost this concept and this idea. We've exalted self so much. We validate every feeling so much. Whatever you feel is good, is right. No, it's not. It's not. A lot of times our feelings are wrong. We shouldn't go by our feelings. Yes, we're going to have them, and I'm not talking about having good, healthy, godly emotions. I'm talking about being controlled by them. It's hard. I know we don't like this. See, love is that decision of your will and mind to love when it's easy, when you feel like it, and when you don't. We've lost this. I've got kind of a long quote here, but it's from Men Are Mars, Women Are from Venus. But I want us to read this together. Think about this. Take your time. It's a wise groom who has to be dragged to the altar. What? It means he knows what love is. It's death. If lovers don't know this, they are headed for trouble. Never will you have your way again. You can't be happy if this other person isn't. No matter who wins the argument, you lose. Always. The sooner you learn this, the better off you will be. Right, Nick, Kristen? We did their marriage counseling. We're like, we sober everybody. This is going to be, get ready. It's going to be terrible. But it's not, is it? Amen. Not yet. No, it's not. We'll go on. Love is an exercise in frustration. You leave the window up when you want it down. You watch someone else's favorite TV program. You kiss when you have a headache. You turn the music down when you like it loud. You learn to be patient without sighing or sulking. Supposed to, yes. Love doing things for the other person. In marriage, two become one, but the one isn't you, it's the other person. You love this person more than you love yourself. This means that you love this person as she or he is. Acceptance. We ask ourselves frankly what the impulse is that makes us want to redesign a person. It isn't love. We want the other person to be normal like us. But is that loving the other person or ourselves? Love brings out the best in people. They can be themselves without artificiality. People who know they are loved glow with beauty and charm. Let this person talk. Create the assurance that any idea, any suggestion, any feeling can be expressed and will be respected. Allow the other person to star once in a while. A wife's joke doesn't need to be top. Don't interrupt your husband in the middle of a story, no matter how lame it is. Cultivate kind ways of speaking. It can be as simple as asking them instead of telling them to do things. Don't take yourself too seriously. Amen. That means be humble. Married life is full of crazy mirrors to see ourselves, how stubborn, how mature we really are. You may be waiting for your wife to finish because you never lift a finger to help her. Love is funny. Its growth doesn't depend on what someone else does for you. It's in direct proportion to what you do for him or her. I need to repeat that one. This is the seed love. Love is funny. Its growth doesn't depend on what someone does for you. It's in direct proportion to what you do for him or her. Country is swarming with people who have never learned this, so are divorce courts. The idea is it's a decision to love somebody. You put it into action. You do it. You live it out. Naomi was there. She had nothing to gain, everything to lose. And yes, this is about marriage, but this is for every relationship. This is for friendships. The thing about this, Naomi had nothing to gain, everything to lose. She stopped, and she was going to destroy the only thing she had, the only connection, the only family she had, the only relationship she had. But her love was like, no, you need to go. You go. And then she even tries to persuade them. It doesn't work. Verse 9, then she kissed them goodbye, and they wept aloud. It said to her, we'll go back with you to your people. And then when he said, return home. Why would you come with me? She says, even if they had this amazing miracle, I get married tonight, I immediately get pregnant, I have twin sons, they grow up and you marry them. Are you going to have children now in your mid-late 40s? Is this going to, you're going to have this amazing miracle? She goes, no, life's more bitter. She's trying to take it on herself and say, no, guys, you don't want this. And she's not putting it on them. Do we understand the kind of love and action? Guys, people nowadays say, well, we fell out of love. Wow. Guys, we fell in love. We fell in love, but then we fell out. No. Biblical love is, I will make a decision to love you. No matter the response, I'm going to go after it. We could talk about abuse and all this stuff. It doesn't mean that. It means no commitment. It means sacrifice. It's what's best for you. How can I love the other person and not worry about me being loved? A young man said to his father at breakfast one morning, Dad, I'm going to get married. How do you know you're ready to get married? Asked the father. Are you in love? I sure am, said the son. How do you know you're in love? Asked the father. Last night as I was kissing my girlfriend goodnight, her dog bit me and I didn't feel the pain until I got home. Maybe it isn't love, but sometimes that's the depth of our understanding of love. You know, Naomi acknowledges that her daughters-in-law are already acting out of a seed love to her and her sons. Why is the seed love so important, this unfailing love, this kindness, this steadfast? Because life is moody. Feelings come and go. Pressures rise and fall every day. Passions ebb and flow. A seed is a stake in the heart of the changing seasons of life. Words of commitment create a bond that stands against life's moodiness. We know that. Passions ebb and they flow. There's great times, there's downtime. But a seed love is, I will love you no matter what I get back. You know, I say about Naomi here as we're closing out, and have you ever seen the movie The Yearling? It's way back, Gregory Peck. It's not a very good actor besides Gregory Peck in the movie. Old movie, but it's about this boy who has this fawn, a small deer, and he raises the deer, and as it grows, it damages the crops, and they're going to have to put it to death. And the boy is in tears trying to get the deer to leave. If you've seen that scene, and I remember watching, I was like, oh, I was a kid too. Like, this is horrible, that deer he loves. And he was throwing rocks, like, get out of here. And it's his best friend, and he loves it. He's just trying, and the deer thinks he's playing, you know, and he doesn't know what to do, but he's got to do what's best for it. That's what Naomi is trying to do right now. Do we live our life as a seed love? She's not a martyr. She's not filled with self-pity. She's giving up what little hope she has. She offers them a reason for living. You know, this kind of action, this kind of heart anticipates Jesus' death, doesn't it? Where she's willing to take on death. She's willing to take on loneliness. She's willing to lose something so that they might have life. They might have children. Things might go well with them. That's the death of Christ, right? That's the love that God showed to us. He's willing to take on sin. He's willing to take on our shame, our punishment that we deserve. Each of us deserve it. So that we might have peace. We might be cleansed. None of us can do it on our own. Many years ago, before the sensitive and politically correct society in which we live today, there was a boy who was continually in trouble. That still happens today, but not the rest of the story. He was forever breaking the rules and always getting into trouble at school. His father could not understand why. He provided for him in every way, a good home, spent time with him, going fishing, going to ball games, showered him with unconditional love. Just couldn't figure out what in the world the boy was thinking. He'd been raised in the church, been in Sunday school for years. His father was reading in the Bible. His father was never provoked to anger. His son's behavior was a mystery to him. One day when his son was upstairs playing around with his baseball, which he'd been told repeatedly not to do, ended up breaking one of the bedroom windows. The boy was 10 years old and certainly knew better because his father had told him time and time again not to play the ball in the house. Father headed upstairs. On the way up, he took off his belt. The boy knew what was coming, so he voluntarily bent over and kneeled next to his bed. But father said, "Son, here, take this belt," which the son did. Then the father took off his shirt and kneeled down the bed and said, "Son, I want you to give me 7 lashes with this belt across my back." His son stared at him and started to cry, said he couldn't do it. His father kept insisting until finally he relented and started hitting his father across the back, but it wasn't hard enough. He said, "Harder, son, hit me harder." When the boy finally lashed the belt across his father's back 7 times with greater force, the father finally asked him, "Son, do you know why I had you do this?" The son in tears said, "No." Father said, "When Jesus went to the cross for us, he took the worst punishment that had ever been inflicted upon any man. He was pummeled, he was beaten, he wore a crown of thorns, and he was punished like no one has ever been punished. Why do you think Jesus had to do this?" The boy, still whimpering, hesitated, and finally said, "Who do you think did this?" The boy finally said, "I think it was the Jews and the Romans." But the father said, "No, it was God. who punished Jesus for everything we have ever done wrong or will ever do wrong in the future. He took the punishment that he didn't deserve to save those who didn't deserve saving. This is how much the Father and Jesus loved us. It was God's love most gloriously displayed for us who deserve actually his wrath. As we read the book of Ruth, we're going to learn more and more about God's love, about how we can love one another. I'm going to close with a little video and then we'll have a prayer. The video is very short. It's an actual video. It's a little disturbing, so not much you can do right now, but it is. But it makes the point about surrendering your life for others to see love, and then we'll have a prayer for a time of communion.
She's a heroine, that's what she is. She's a great person.
If it weren't for her, that boy would not made it.
Amen. As we think about sacrifice and what Jesus did for us, let's remember that. Let's reflect on that during this time of communion. Let's pray. Father, we're so grateful for the love you have for us. Father, sometimes we just we don't believe it, or we don't accept it, and we don't open up our hearts to it. I pray that today you'll give us an open heart to reflect on it as we consider Ruth and Naomi, but most of all, your son. We love you, Father. I pray all these things in Jesus' name. Amen.